Since 2017, micro, small and medium-sized businesses have celebrated their day in recognition of the work and contributions to local and global economies. Now, these enterprises are the backbone of most economies worldwide, and they play a key role in developing countries. According to statistics, formal and informal micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, that's MSMEs, make up over 90% of all firms and on average account for 60% to 70% of jobs while contributing about 50% of GDP to the economy. In recognition of these enterprises, the United Nations General Assembly declared 27th of June the Micro, Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises Day to sensitize the public on their contribution to sustainable development and economic growth. It turns out these types of enterprises are responsible for significant employment and income generation opportunities across the world. More importantly, they have been identified as a major driver of poverty alleviation and development. Now, the theme for 2019 is Big Money and Small Business, financing the SDGs, and it highlights the importance of financing SMEs for development, and it's expected to raise awareness around the need for greater investment in micro, small and medium enterprises, particularly in developing countries. So, how can developing countries bridge the gap in finance, knowledge and skills for SMEs? How important are micro, small and medium enterprises in financing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals? And is there enough spotlight on smaller companies and their contribution to economic development around the world? We'll be back to look deeper into these issues. I am Anne Jibuno. Welcome to Nigeria Today. Now, to discuss this issue with me in the studio, here seated is Helen Asimegbe. She is a serial entrepreneur and CEO, that's Chief Executive Officer of Style Mark PRO Enterprise Hub, a capacity development center which trains entrepreneurs, small business owners and startups. And she's also a member of the board of training facility, Abuja Enterprise Agency, that's a World Bank International Finance Corporation, and is also an LPI certified trainer. Wow. Welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We also have with us the Acting Director General, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency, SMEDAN. He is Monday Evans. Welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
All right. Acting DG, I'll start with you. Today is World SMEs Day. What are SMEs?
Yes, as you can see, my T-shirt, my cap, everything around me is all about MSMEs. And of course, MSMEs depict micro, small and medium enterprises. Micro for enterprises that employ less than 10 persons and have a asset base of less than 10 million. Small that employ between 10 and less than 50 and they have a asset base of less than 100 million, 10 million to 100 million. And then medium for enterprises that employ between 50 and less than 200. Okay. And then have a asset base of between 100 million and less than 1 billion.
Now, Helen, what makes SMEs important to global economies? Briefly.
In one word, or in just a sentence, I would say we are the drivers of our nation's economy. Because we are bringing forward and together different skills we have and transforming it into profitable businesses.
Now, the Director General, there was a walk by SMEDAN today.
Yes.
Right. How should the day be marked, and what can Nigerians do to celebrate this day?
Of course, like you pointed out, today is the 27th of June 2019, and that is the day recognized by International Council on Small Business and the United Nations General Assembly to celebrate MSMEs. SMEs are very important. SMEs help in driving growth. SMEs help in creating jobs. They help in alleviating poverty. They help towards providing food security, and they help in wealth creation. So they need to be celebrated. That is why UN General Assembly designated today so that we can celebrate MSMEs and draw attention to their contribution to sustainable development. In fact, today I led a team of my staff on a walk for MSMEs, because MSMEs are critical in this country and across the globe. In fact, we walked from our office to the FCT SDS pavilion opposite Radio House today. It was a good walk. I mean, we created attention for MSMEs, and people loved what we did. We were sharing our flyers, telling people that it is key, it is important to run MSMEs, because that's the way to go.
Okay, now, Helen, you are an entrepreneur. Tell us what you think about the support you're receiving from the country. Is it enough? Are MSMEs getting the support they need?
Thank you very much. Talking, like right now, what is going on is that I'm lending my voice on behalf of other entrepreneurs all across Nigeria. Truthfully, it's not like we're getting enough support as we need, or the kind of push, you know, that is required for every one of us. Like I was sharing with someone yesterday, it's just looking like as though we are only there for ourselves right now. You help this person on your right, you help the person on your left. So it's not like we're really getting as much support. We, to an extent, some of us, you understand, have been able to be fortunate. Like for instance, the World Bank scholarship I got to do a program with the Enterprise Development Center. During the course of the program, I was taught, I went through, like, it was like a capacity building for me, and it opened my eyes to learn about business and so many things I needed to put in place to structure my business. But as you know, it's not everybody that would be that fortunate. So we need platforms like that, as many opportunities that every other person too can benefit. So the support is not really enough.
Okay, DG, acting DG, can you respond to
Yes, thank you so much. You know, looking at the business environment, it's not clement for small businesses. They need a better enabling business environment. And of course, for an average small business person or an entrepreneur, there are several challenges confronting the entrepreneur. You can talk about lack of management skills. You can talk about lack of access to both national, global, and regional markets. You can talk about finance, which every small entrepreneur will say, give me the money, and so on and so forth. And there are other challenges along the line. Now, you know, SMEDAN is the agency of government responsible for facilitating growth and development in the MSME subsector. And then we have the mandate of making sure that we provide all resources that can empower small businesses to do what they need to do. Now, for us, our major aim is to tackle capacity building, to make sure that they have the skill, because it's very, very key to use finances when it comes. And then to make sure that they have access to markets, because if you have skills and have money, have your products online, if you cannot have an off-taker, then you have wasted your time. So for us as SMEDAN, we place so much premium on developing the capacity of these MSMEs. And of course, in terms of finance, the law establishing SMEDAN does not give us the power to really lend money to anybody. But what we do as part of our mandate is to facilitate access to funding windows, maybe to banks, our friendly partners, the banks, microfinance banks, and so on and so forth. But because we know that this is a challenge, because it doesn't give us the opportunity of really closing that, making sure that the development cycle is complete. We have tried to think outside the box to make sure that at least we can give money, whatever way we can do it to support small businesses. For instance, we are running a program we call Conditional Grant Scheme for Micro Enterprises. Let me just talk about something else. Now, the number of MSMEs in Nigeria as of 2013 was gotten to be 37 million. It was a national survey done by my agency, SMEDAN, and the National Bureau of Statistics. We discovered that out of that 37 million, about 36.9 million are micro enterprises. I've already defined micro enterprises before.
Yes.
Which is about 99.8% of the generality of MSMEs. And we discovered that these MSMEs are powerless. They don't have collaterals, they don't have money, they don't have anything. You know, They are very one-man business here and there. So we said, what can we do to empower these people to scale their operations? We said, okay, let's have this conditional grant scheme, which is a program targeted at making sure that we give them training, we give them micro-insurance, we give them formalization, we register them with CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission. We also give them a grant of 50,000.
The basics.
The basics, yes. The 50,000 naira cash, so a grant to make sure that they can take off or even improve what they are doing. And then open bank accounts for them to make sure that they develop banking habits and so on and so on. And then follow it with what we call business development service, which means post-intervention support.
Okay, I'll stop you there. We want to listen to a special report put together by Doyin Dia on the challenges of micro, small and medium enterprises. When we return, we'll talk about the theme for the year. It's related to what you're saying. Let's take that report.
This is Area 11 markets, where you have a concentration of both small and medium enterprises. But one thing is unique to them all here: the access to loan, which can help them take their business from the level it is to the desired height. 39-year-old Adebayo Abosede, a small business owner at Area 11 Market, is a widow with 3 children. This small-scale business is the only survival means for her and the children. All she needs to make life easier is just ₦1 million. But that dream seems like building a castle in the air, as all efforts to get loan proved abortive.
There is one of a women empowerment, that. Before we heard about it, and they told us to write our name and everything. We submit it, but since then, 2017, we didn't have anything about it.
Like Abosede, Ibrahim Lawal, a 29-year-old store owner, started this business 10 years ago with just 10,000 naira. But to achieve his dream of a supermarket, he needs 10 million naira.
And I would like to get a big shop, number one, and I don't know how much will I rent it or to buy it on my own.
While digging deep further on the common challenges in this market are camera lenses, caught Sani Yusuf, a physically challenged entrepreneur. Unlike Abosede and Ibrahim, Yusuf's business only needs 200,000 naira to blossom. The unifying factor, therefore, in this scenario is the easy access to credit. This concern, however, is already taking center stage at the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDAN, even as Nigeria joins the rest of the world to celebrate the 2019 World SME Day. With this year's theme, Big Money for Small Business, financing the SDG, small and medium-scale business owners like Abosede, Ibrahim and Yusuf can now have their dreams come true, becoming employers of labor and contributing meaningfully to Nigeria's economic growth.
Wow, that's a special report put together by Doyin Dia on the challenges of SMEs in Nigeria. Before we went on break, we talked about, before we went on that, we took that story, we were talking about the theme for the year. Yeah. And in that report, the central issue there was access to finance. And this year, you're talking about big money for small business. What do you mean?
Yes, you know, like I said before, an average entrepreneur will tell you that my major challenge is access to affordable finance. In fact, all over the world is the challenge. And then this year's theme is deliberately pointing to this issue of access to finance. Because even in Nigeria, for instance, a lot of people find it difficult to access finance. If you go to a bank, for instance, a micro enterprise that doesn't have collateral, does not have things to back up the request, it is impossible to get money from an average commercial bank. Because an average commercial bank will always say that small businesses are risky. It's not good lending to them and so on and so forth. They don't have records, they don't have transactional records, they don't keep books, they don't have skills, they don't have collateral, so they don't have anything. So that is why a majority of people, a majority of entrepreneurs, small businesses, find it very difficult to access funding from an average commercial bank. Then for us as agency for these small businesses, we have realized that it's difficult for small businesses to access money from an average commercial bank for various reasons I used before. Now, what we are trying to do is to think outside the box, to find a way of making money reach them as a grant, as a loan, whatever, to make sure that they can have access to this money, because since they can't get it from commercial banks, for the case for microfinance banks, even worse. Development finance institutions and so on and so forth. So it's quite difficult for them to access the money. That's why in the wisdom of United Nations and the International Council for Small Business, they said, let's concentrate effort of this year on access to funding for small businesses. And of course, SDGs are very good, because all the 17 SDGs have one thing or the other to get to small businesses. So is it poverty? Is it hunger? Is it environment? And so on and so forth. So one way or the other, small businesses or MSMEs have one thing or the other to do with each of the 17 goals of the SDGs. So that's what they're saying. If you provide money for small businesses, you're also indirectly financing the SDGs. So that's the idea behind it.
All right, Helen, you are an entrepreneur and you have lots of colleagues, that are going through these challenges. How have they been able to overcome this collateral, issue? What's the scenario now, and how have they been? Those that have overcome them, what steps did they take?
When you're talking about overcoming collateral issue, we're still faced with those issues. You still find out that some commercial banks are still not lending.
So how have you survived? How has it been for you?
A lot of us are really thinking outside of the box right now.
That's what I want.
Because there are certain kinds of businesses that really do not necessarily need funding. So we're now thinking outside of the box to say, okay, what service can I offer you? And then you pay me in return. By so doing, I'm able to start stacking up some money to probably start any other form of trade that I want to go into. For instance, maybe you find someone who just finished NYSC and then tries to look for a white-collar job and it's not coming forth, and decides to go into entrepreneurship. And maybe this person is good with web designs or even graphics designs and stuff like that. So that person now decides to look for maybe 5 clients to do free, maybe a website, to design a website for, and all of that. So that person has not necessarily had to raise 100,000 naira. Has the skill he or she has had has been converted into funding. So we've had to.
You've looked for new ways of beating.
Because we can't keep waiting.
Addressing the challenge.
We can't keep waiting.
All
so
right.
even the little we have, it's just that we've had to intensify, adverts and all of that, spreading of the word. And we are there for each other as entrepreneurs. We are really there because we help support each other with referrals and all of that. It's still a struggle. Even as we're speaking on national TV, we're still saying commercial banks, we are still here.
Okay.
It's just that we're not giving up. Some of us are relentless. We're not, but we're still hoping, that these things become easy sooner or later.
All right, acting DG, the Millennium Development Goals financing is different from the SDGs. Now, how will the MSMEs help in financing SDGs? Briefly. Now,
the Millennium Development Goals that ended before the SDGs came on board, MDGs were funded from a portion of the debt burden. It's funded from the budget, so to say. But SDGs are not funded from the budget. So they are doing a creative thinking in funding the SDGs, which means they are looking at partnerships from both public and private institutions to fund the SDGs. So it's no more government direct funding like we used to have in under MDGs. So it's a partnership funding on SDGs.
Okay, yes. Now in the achievement of the SDGs, you mentioned something about helping this SDG, small businesses in the area of innovation, creativity, and all that. What role do they play in economic development? For instance, like Nigeria, we are trying to diversify and all that. Most countries like the US are run, the MSMEs are like the engine room.
Yeah, they are not autopilot.
Yes. So how do we get there?
Now,
or rather, how do we get somewhere there?
I tell you the truth, all over the world, the challenges facing small businesses are common. Even in the US, if you look at the book written by this Robo Kiyosaki, Professor Robo Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, you will read somewhere that he said even the challenges facing MSMEs in developed countries are the same in developing countries. For instance, he said in one of the surveys that small businesses, most of them, 70% of them do not survive their 5th anniversary. Even in the US, which is
so how do we move beyond where we are? We know the problem.
So that's what I'm saying. Support is the key. Support is the key to support small businesses. What are the challenges, the major challenges? Talk about finance, talk about skills, talk about markets, and other regulatory hiccups, and so on and so on. So we need to deliberately tackle the challenges. For instance, you remember that recently NAFDAC came out with a 600% increase in their tariffs. That is one of those regulatory challenges they face. But somehow, NAFDAC was talked to. There was a lot of advocacy, and they had to withdraw it. So that kind of thing will enable small businesses to put their hands together and grow.
This is at the federal level.
Yes.
How do we get it right at the state level? What kind of steps have been taken at that level?
Yes, if you look at this PEBEC, Presidential Enabling Business Environment Committee, now, they are doing something at the federal level and also doing it at the state level. They've started some pilot programs with Kano and Lagos and some other states. So what they're saying is this, all those issues that will enable small businesses have an enabling environment at the federal level should also be done at the state, so that both MSMEs at the state level and the federal level and at the state level should have an enabling environment to operate. Because that's the key. If there's an enabling environment, especially access to power, for instance, if the issue of power is sorted out, small businesses will have a serious lease of life to operate, to scale.
All right.
Yes.
Now, Helen, how has technology helped in improving your business and invariably other businesses like yours?
The world has changed, has evolved. You understand? Thank God, thankfully, technology has really, impacted a lot of us. In my own business, it's more like before you even see Helen or before you know Helen, 1,001 people out there already know about my brand. Right? So I'm able to spread the message about what I do, put my adverts and all of that using social media, maybe Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So it has really impacted my business in a lot of ways, and it has helped me grow, so to say. So
have you encountered any dangers using social media?
Oh, of course, definitely. One time someone hacked into my Facebook account, and I was lucky they were able to pin it down from Facebook, although they didn't allow me access for about 6 months, but eventually I got my account back. Everything has its own, good sides and bad sides as well. But I think technology is really helping us, because looking at small businesses, it's not everyone that can afford to pay rent for a shop. It's not everyone that is able to own a store. But with the advent of social media, we're now putting our businesses online. You can be here in Abuja and then sell to someone in Lagos or even as far as Zamfara. So these are the good sides, of having technology on our own side.
Is SME and leveraging on the advantages of technology to help these businesses?
Yes, definitely.
How are you doing that?
Definitely, we're on social media. We have our website is user friendly. You can log on to our website, ask questions, and get answers immediately. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and so on and so forth. So we use these platforms to reach our clients across the country, and they also reach us. So technology is fast, technology is good. So, but it has its bad sides, as she said, because once somebody hacks into your platform,
it becomes a problem. Before we go, the
Okay.
rural community, SMEs in the rural areas, how are you reaching them?
Yes, for instance, SMEDA has a presence in all the 36 states and Abuja. So from that state level, we also have contacts at the local governments and so on and so forth. If you, from experience, some of these local governments do not even have access to power, not to talk of the internet and so on.
So how do you reach those
So that's why, as a deliberate policy, our state officers are made to come from that state and speak the same language so that they can communicate with them even in local language as much as possible. Yes.
Okay, Helen, what else do you SMEs need? Very briefly, we are completely out of time, to help enhance what you do.
There is a lot we need. Finance, funding. Like I was sharing with you when we went on break. I was sharing with the DG at the acting DG.
Finance.
While we were on break, I was saying to him, I'm like, okay, I know Smedan is doing quite a lot, but we need to intensify those efforts. There has to be partnerships with maybe other private organizations, so we just spread the reach. It's not everybody that is able to benefit from SMED, and even as we speak right now, there are so many other people who have not even had the opportunity to go through any capacity building program this year. And before you know, 2019 is over. So there has to be that, synergy.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all time can allow us to take Helen Asimigbe, MD, CEO, as well as the founder, Helen Asimigbe Foundation. Well, we didn't mention that earlier. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And we also have and appreciate the Acting Director General of the Small and Medium Enterprises Development, SMEDEN, Mr. Monday Evans. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Happy to be with you today.
Okay, and that's it on Nigeria Today. On behalf of the production and studio crew, I thank you all for watching.